After the bell starting right now, let's get right to today's action. We have Bruno Del Ama. He is Global X Fund's co-founder and CEO. He's warning U.S. equities may be overvalued right now. And Larry Shover in the pits of the CME. Larry, I want to start with you, and I want to start with interest rates. Took a huge jump today. We saw they had a direct effect on housing stocks. What is a long-term effect of this? Are we going to see continued rise in these rates? What are they expecting at the CME?
Well, I think they're expecting rates to continue to back up both here and in Europe. But the more important thing, what traders are more concerned with, is the trajectory. You're right. We did rally quite a bit up to 272 bips today. If we would continue in that clip, that would be a problem. And we saw that even in the banking sector today. But we are going to bank up. We are going to back up in yields because we're going in the right direction. Our economy is healing. So the traders in the pits are realizing that it's going in the right direction for the right reason.
For the right reason. And I'll tell you, it doesn't even matter what's happening with the Fed and with interest rates. What an amazing move in Apple today. We got to keep on this breaking news here. And Larry, what does the trading floor think when you hear the Carl Icahn jumping in at $1 billion stake here, which is certainly significant? His company, Icahn Enterprises, IEP, jumping about 4%. Yeah. You've got Apple ending the session. It's now down just a little bit in the aftermarket, but up about 4.25%. There's 4.5%, and then Icahn Enterprises up 4.25%. It's an exciting move, isn't it?
It's exciting, and you asked a really good question. I mean, traders are finally have a sigh of relief here because they're all saying, I told you so. I told you it's a great stock, a great company, but we're all scared to jump in. So now we have a big elephant like Icahn in. Hey, I was right all along. I'm going to buy it now, too.
And remember, they are still selling product in big time. They are selling those iPhones. Yeah. They're jumping off the shelves. Bruno, let's go to you because you're not quite as copacetic with the way things are going. You think that the market may react in a definitely downward direction as a result of the tapering to come.
Yeah, I mean, we've been constructive for the U.S., overweight the U.S. For quite a bit of time. We actually think it's probably the right time to change course. We think tapering will have a negative effect.
How big of a negative effect, Bruno?
It could be pretty material. Like, we could be seeing a pullback of as much as 10%. It's always hard to tell, but we don't think all of it is priced in the market at all. And we just think there's better opportunities in some international markets.
Okay, where? Where are those opportunities?
Well, we like China a lot. We like Southeast Asia. China, clearly a market that has not done well for quite a bit of time. You maybe have to be selective. We like the consumer stocks there. Some individual stocks that we like. CNAC Corp, it's a social media company. It's showing tremendous growth.
Do you believe, Bruno, that the sort of slightly destabilized China of late has found its footing?
Well, China hasn't found its footing across the board. You have to be selective in China. And the segment within the Chinese economy that's doing better is the domestic Chinese consumer. That's very much where policymakers are focused on. And within the Chinese consumer, you also have to be somewhat selective. And again, you have to look at some of the stocks that are actually showing very strong performance, that are growing very rapidly. And there's quite a number of those.
By the way, let's talk about one of them, because the high rollers you think are doing well. Here in New York, we know that there are a lot of very wealthy Chinese people who are buying by cash, buying all these $1 million apartments here in New York, and they're not going for sale either. These are very high-end apartments that haven't come down in price, and they're buying with cash. So you think Melco Crown Entertainment, this is a company that focuses on Macau, but it focuses on the high rollers who are gambling in Macau. That's why you like this company.
Yeah, we like it because it focuses again on the Chinese consumer, but it's the wealthy consumer. It's a segment that's seeing tremendous growth. This is also a company that has a great management team. They've been very successful on executing on their strategy. It's very difficult to get licenses in Macau, so you have a little bit of a moat for that business. And again, growth. They're building a new property in Macau. They're building properties in Manila, in the Philippines, and again, executing very well, growing very rapidly, good fundamentals.
Larry, do you think that when you hear guys like Bruno and you see how the markets show such strength and sort of titanium resiliency in the face of some pretty negative headlines, that now people, the average retail investors, might get off the sidelines? And then is that a flashing red signal to say to the rest of the smart money, now mom and pop are in, time for us to get out?
Yeah, but I still think mom and pop are still really on the sidelines, and so are institutions. But to Bruno's point, I mean, yeah, once they start getting in, I would be worried. But once institutions start getting in, I'd be worried. I'm not worried right now because too much of the press right now is too negative. It's like this fog has rolled in, talking about all this old, tired news that we've heard for 6 months or 9 months, and I do think it's priced into the market. So I disagree with Bruno on that point. I mean, I think the Fed and Washington, I mean, a lot of bad things could happen, no doubt about it. I'm not that naive. I'm just saying I think it's baked into the market right now. Otherwise, people would be selling.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit to the energy market. And Bruno, you have one pick there, Kinder Morgan. You look at oil at over $100. It looks like it's going to stay there for a while. Is that why you're for Kinder Morgan?
Well, we like the infrastructure piece of the energy space. Really, the companies that are building and operating the pipelines, which are very much a toll road type business model. As long as you have natural gas, you have oil flowing through those pipelines, you're collecting the toll. We're seeing a tremendous energy renaissance in the U.S. We're seeing more infrastructure build out that has to take place, and these companies are poised to do pretty well. One of our favorite segments within the U.S.
All right, yeah, and it looks like an opportunity where you buy U.S. large caps, Bruno, that make products here but sell them elsewhere in the very countries that you've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Apple is a perfect example. I mean, we've seen Icahn's position. It's a company that within the context of valuations, it's looking at fundamentals. It looks to be an opportunity. And obviously, you're seeing now large investors jumping in. And obviously, a lot of their sales are in the U.S., but a lot of their sales are overseas. And
Boy,
so they're going to benefit.
It will be interesting to see volume in Apple tomorrow at the open.
Volume and price. Both of those things it'd be interesting to see if it stays. Perhaps it'll jump over 500. We will see. Bruno Del Ama, great to see you, Bruno. Thanks for coming in. Larry Shover, we're going to check in with you just a few minutes when the CME closes.
The S&P futures are about to close. Let's head back to Larry Shover in the pits of the CME on a day where we saw, again, as we say, a real clawback after having been down 50 points for the Dow. What does it look like for the S&P tomorrow as we open?
Well, I think it's confusing. Let's keep in mind, for the past 5 weeks, we've been sitting in a 20-point range. And as you know, people start to get concerned. News reports start to come out, but all these things that are going to be the next impetus for the market, we have to remember as investors, if you're truly an investor, you have to tie yourself to the mast and not get all mixed up in this financial pornography that surrounds us. I mean, you're in or you're not in. And there's times when you maybe have to shed a little bit, but the fact is, tie yourself to the mast. Don't get all caught up in all the plethora that's old half-baked news we've been hearing for 6 months. Could we have a correction? Sure we could. But could we go higher? Sure we could. Nobody knows, but slow and steady always wins the race.
Avoid financial pornography. Advice from Larry Shover at the CME. I love it. Thank you, Larry.